you ever noticed how we're always looking for a chance to express our competitive spirit? There seems to be something in human nature that makes us seek out contests, no matter how strange, how unusual, in which to test ourselves. You might say it's almost a mania with us, this competitiveness. When the automobile entered our everyday lives, a new era dawned. With the automobile came a new channel for our competitive spirit, and we were quick to take advantage of it. Diamond P presents Motormania, a story of some uniquely American motorsports. The heart of America, its farmlands. Despite 2 centuries of flux, the farm is still symbolic of our national character, the hearty individual battling the elements to bring his crop in. The soul of America, the farmer. For 2 centuries, he's fought to feed a nation, constantly on the lookout for new ideas, new tools that will allow him to do his job better. No tool has so revolutionized his job like the tractor. From steam-powered to today's more modern machines, the tractor has helped the farmer keep pace with a hungry country. Never one to be satisfied with the status quo, farmers have constantly tweaked their machines. And as any hot rodder can tell you, the only way to test these improvements is in competition. It didn't take long for farmers to create a sport that truly tested the capabilities of their machines, tractor pulling. Today, tractor pulling has a nationwide following with its own sanctioning bodies and major corporate sponsors. One of the reasons for the popularity of pulling is the diversity of the machines. Of course, some of the tractors might look a little out of place on a farm. Modified tractors are some of the most mechanically advanced machines in all of racing. Feats of homegrown technology that would faze a college-trained engineer. Powered by a variety of engine combination. Here, anything goes, and if you've always wanted a jet-powered tractor, well, why not? Over the past several years, pulling has grown so that now it's more than just tractors, it's also trucks. We tend to think of farmers as staid, conservative people, but there's always a couple who like to stand out. Pulling's newest category, retired government vehicles. Proof of pulling's growing popularity is the newest version of the sport, held in stadiums like the Houston Astrodome. While the track is shorter, the stadium competition is just as intense as its outdoor cousin. It seems like if something's got an engine and four wheels, people will find a way to race it, which explains America's fastest growing motorsport, demolition combines. A race series for tanks? That's what skeptics said when the Army announced a new racing series in 1925. The Sherman Tank Grand Prix was supposed to be the Indy 500 of 6-ton, armor-covered, track-driven vehicles. The race was canceled, unfortunately, after 1 year when the Army lost funding for the event. The American Cowboy, a frontier hero. The cowboy of the Old West was an athlete of remarkable skill, and an important part of his legend was the rodeo, where cowboys would match their skills in contests that mimicked their jobs on the ranch. Today, in arenas across the country, cowboys continue to pit themselves against men and beasts. For many people, the long-haul truckers are our modern cowboys. Like their horse-bound brethren, truckers have learned that skills honed on the job can be useful in competition. So when a group of truck racers gathered at Dover Downs in Dover, Delaware, the spirit of the rodeo was reborn. As in other rodeos, big rig rodeos feature events where competitors use their day-to-day driving skills. At Dover, the rodeo featured 4 events: drag race, a pit crew competition, slalom runs, and a 15-lap sprint race. All the rodeo trucks are modified for competition. Some are built from the ground up for racing only. Weighing 14,000 pounds, these big rigs are the equivalent of almost 4 Winston Cup stock cars or 1 big elephant. The engines account for almost 3,000 pounds by themselves. These incredible durable power plants go 200,000 miles between overhauls and need only a check of bearings and an oil change between races. Other weighty modifications include roll cages and heavy padding inside the truck to protect the driver. Beside the roll cages, other racing modifications include double shocks and springs for the right front tire. The suspension changes help the trucks handle the high banks of Dover. The first test of the suspensions and the drivers comes in the drag race competition. For the big riggers, this meant 1 lap around the track called the Monster Mile. To those in the know, this event is also known as the last mile home after 6 weeks on the road trophy dash. In the finals at Dover, Bill Johnson in truck number 11 defeated E.J. Utley. It's the driver that usually makes the difference in drag racing, but in the pit crew competition, the driver is more spectator than participant. The crews carry the load in this event, literally. The object is simple. One team at a time changes the right front tire of its truck as quickly as possible. By now, you've probably guessed that everything on a big rig is big, and that applies to the front tire as well. A normal stock car tire weighs 80 pounds, a big rig tire, 300 pounds. Watching the crews get the old tires off and the new ones on looks like something out of Beat the Clock. Doyle Montgomery's team won the event with a 1-minute tire change, but not every crew was as well practiced. Practice is the only way to explain how a big rig driver can back an 18-wheeler into a spot so tight you'd have problems parking a Toyota. The timed slalom runs are the perfect chance for drivers to highlight their maneuvering skills. Dover, the winning time was E.J. Utley's 28-second pass. And the good news from the pit crew competition is that things will be wrapped up in time for the 15-lap sprint race. The climax of the rodeo is the 15-lap sprint race. There's little in nature that compares to a dozen or so big rigs hurtling around a super speedway at 100 miles per hour. On the first lap, E.J. Utley in truck number 5 got a little confused about which way he was supposed to go and finally decided to park his truck and ask directions. Utley emerged unhurt from his conversation with the inside wall, and after a caution period to clear the track, Bill Johnson in truck number 11 shot into the lead. Johnson held on to the lead to win the sprint race. Based upon points scored in the 4 events, he and E.J. Utley shared overall top honors for the Dover Downs Big Rig Rodeo. The American trucker, a modern-day hero carrying on in the spirit and tradition of the cowboy. Since the Model T brought automobiles to the masses, off-road racing has been among the most popular motorsports. Servicemen returning from World War II brought with them an appreciation of the Jeep, the general-purpose four-wheel drive runabout. For those who enjoyed off-roading, surplus Jeeps were the perfect way to explore the great outdoors. The Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, the famed sports arena, its profile distinctive against the Angel City skyline, stadium for the 1984 Summer Olympics. Its history dates back nearly 60 years. Its Olympic tradition started in 1932 as site of the Summer Games. The Coliseum is the last place you'd expect an outbreak of Motormania, if this wasn't L.A. One of the true pioneers in motorsports was Mickey Thompson, not only as a racer, but as a promoter as well. One of his most successful promotions was stadium off-road racing, bringing the thrill of the Baja to sports arenas like the Coliseum. It takes 100 tons of dirt to convert the Coliseum to an off-road course, providing a demanding workout for all the racers, including the motocross riders. Besides the motocross bikes, which run a slightly different course, fans are also treated to the thrill of 3- and 4-wheel ATVs. While the different bikes require different riding styles, to the fans, it's all the same: wild racing action. Another popular category are the Odysseys, racing go-karts with roll cages. Besides providing non-stop excitement, the karts are a great training ground for driving in rush hour traffic. The Super 1600 racers, VW-powered single-seat buggies, are a mainstay in off-road racing. At the Mickey Thompson Stadium Grand Prix, they're among the most exciting cars to watch. Their wheel-banging action always gets the fans' attention, especially as the cars rush toward the first turn. The resulting melee occasionally requires a restart to sort out the metal-mangling mess. Getting out first can be an advantage, but sometimes it just means you're the first to run into trouble. Of course, action happens all over the place, not just at the front of the race. The LA Coliseum course is unique. Because of the para-style jumps, the cars bounce up the side of the arena. Occasionally, they bounce a little too hard. At the Coliseum race, Brad Castle in car number 9 had led until getting caught in the tag team wrestling match at the top of the para-style, giving the win to a surprised Tommy Croft in car number 4. Unlike the single-seat buggies, Ultra Stocks are unique to stadium off-road racing. Mickey Thompson modeled the Ultra Stocks after drag racing's popular funny car class. Both feature plastic bodies resembling production cars, covering purebred race chassis. The result is awesome performance machines that kinda, sorta, maybe look like something you'd drive on the street. The Ultra Stocks are as exciting to watch as their single-seat cousins, and like the buggies, which sometimes compete at the same time as the Ultra Stocks, these plastic fantastics like to mix it up a little. With all the different cars on the track at once, traffic jams become a major problem. comes to passing competitors, these racers are masters at the bump and run. Lightweight and rocket fast, these cars can be a handful to control as they fly over the track's jumps and whoop-de-doos. The competition is so close that a tiny mistake can be disastrous. At the Coliseum, Monty Crawford in car number 16 finished ahead of Ken Kazarian, car number 17, and Jeff Elrod, car number 84. One of Motormania's greatest moments came at the 1932 Olympics held in Los Angeles. The demonstrator sport that year was motor polo, and the U.S. team, captained by New York cab driver Norm Silverstein, defeated Great Britain 5-2 to win the gold medal. It doesn't take a trained police investigator to notice that pickup trucks are all the rage these days. Look around. Tricked out to the max with rad paint jobs and outrageous accessories, pickup trucks are now as popular as sports cars with the smart set. This growing popularity is part of the reason the Sports Car Club of America created a road racing series for pickup trucks. That the racers sometimes mistake dirt for track only adds to the excitement. Class rules are designed to make competition equal, resulting in bumper-to-bumper racing. Passing usually requires drafting, running in the clean air behind the vehicle in front, and then slingshotting past at the appropriate moment. Pickup trucks are the hottest vehicles on the street today. Tight, close racing with victory measured in fender lengths are making pickups the hottest vehicles on the track, too. Pickup trucks have long been popular with off-road racers, and in the energy-charged world of Mickey Thompson Stadium off-road racing, pickups are the stars of the show. These specially built racecrafts bring new meaning to the term fender bender. Not afraid of a little physical contact, the racers have perfected the awesome bump, grind, and pass maneuver. Finding the quickest way through a corner sometimes means using a couple less wheels than the truck builder intended. In football, they have the tearaway jersey. In off-road truck racing, it's the tearaway body panels. Have you ever noticed how sometimes a shortcut is really the longest way to get somewhere? And you thought only James Bond had a car with a smoke screen. This is why it's called tailgating. At the Mickey Thompson Off-Road Grand Prix held in the Los Angeles Coliseum, Sherman Balch in truck number 10 won, followed in second by Steve Millen, truck number 3, with Danny Thompson, truck number 4, third. No discussion of our Motormania would be complete without a tribute to one of the greatest stunt drivers of his generation, Royce Cunningham. A true innovator, Royce's specialty was jumping over things. His most famous stunt is the performed only once, never to be repeated, leap over the house! Playing in the mud, it's a childhood experience we can all relate to. In the somewhat more adult world of Motormania, mud is still a lot of fun to play in, or more accurately, play through. 100 yards of water and dirt and a racer determined to get across it. That's the premise of mud bogging. The top of the line in bog buggies is the unlimited class, where anything goes in the name of going faster. Mud bog racing, the goal is to be the quickest through the mire. Of course, before you can worry about how quick you are, you have to worry about getting through. When it's well done, mud bog racing is a guaranteed 10 on the Wowie meter. As the automobile was revolutionizing the way we played, it was also revolutionizing the way we got around, our personal transportation. And more than a few have tried to create the ultimate street machine. The thermos car kept your soup warm and your milk cold. Before the days of interstate highways, this was the way to drive from New York to L.A. The submersible Marmobile, the perfect car for people who lived in areas prone to heavy flooding. Very heavy flooding. Some of the first known attempts at commercial airline service. In Chicago during the 30s, one cab company tried a new way of dropping passengers off, right at their door, if they got a lucky bounce. Frankly, we think this idea shows promise. Naples, Florida. The Gold Coast. Haven for the rich, it's an unlikely home to a motorsport found nowhere else. Twice a year, the residents in and around Naples gather for the World Championship Swamp Buggy races, a ritual that dates back 40 years. These are homemade race machines built with common sense, instinct, and personal vision as guides. Winning's the goal, but competition's the attraction. Buggies are broken up into classes based primarily on the number of engine cylinders. Among the most fragile-looking are the 1- and 2-cylinder motorcycle-engined machines. Some of the closest, most competitive racing comes from the Jeep class, always a crowd favorite. The biggest, baddest beasts to motor through the swamps are the 6- and 8-cylinder 2- and 4-wheel drive buggies. The most sophisticated of all the race machines, they literally fly through the muck. The race course is sorta, kinda, maybe a figure 8, a mile in distance. The first obstacle the drivers have to navigate is the Sippy Hole. Deepest part of the course. It was named for a guy from Mississippi. Couldn't get through it, or so the legend goes. The left-hand turn out of the Sippy Hole leads down the chute around the smaller of the 2 islands, hugging the back all the way around. And it's down the long front straight, again going through the Sippy Hole. Assuming you don't drown or your engine stalls, it's a right-hander around the second island, down the back straight. Once more around the smaller island, back down the front straight, survive the Sippy Hole, you're at the finish line. To win in competition takes a coordinated effort on the part of driver and buggy. To get around the bumpy, rutted course, its many obstacles hidden beneath the water, requires durability and power from the machines, as well as finesse, skill, and the ability to hold their breath underwater from the racers. Swamp buggy racing began as an informal way for friends to compare their new hunting rigs needed to travel the marshy, mucky areas around Naples. 40 years later, racers like Tom and Debbie Engel are as much an attraction as the buggies. In 1982, Tom and Debbie in their Jeep Reefer Madness captured the crowd's favor with a performance that was equal parts skill and showmanship. By winning their class final, the Engels moved into the little feature. Hopelessly outpowered, Tom and Debbie, nicknamed Lady Luck, had almost no chance to win the race and advance into the big feature. As the buggies came down the chute leading to the back straight, Turkey Buzzard, piloted by Rick Caperton, hit something and broke. That gave the lead to Richard Beatty aboard Monstrosity and moved the Engels into second. Opened up a big lead on Tom and Debbie, but as he came out of the sippy hole, something let go on Monstrosity and it stopped dead in the muck. A few moments later, a rather surprised Tom and Debbie drove by the stalled Beatty to take the lead. Half a lap later, the Engels crossed the finish line, underdog winners of the little feature.
You were a bit of an underdog. Maybe Lady Luck here worked for you.
Yeah, it must have.
Describe the race for us a little bit. What happened out there?
Well, for a while I thought I was in trouble and it broke down, and my lucky person was with me.
And you get a shot at the big feature now?
I guess. I don't think I got too much to go there.
We got to think positive now. Come on.
Yeah.
He's been all negative all day, and I've been the positive one.
Positive feelings aside, Reefer Madness was no match for the faster buggies in the big feature, coming home third. 4 years later, Tom Engel was still behind the wheel of Reefer Madness, but Lady Luck was now in a Jeep of her own.
Debbie, Reefer Madness fans all over the country just aren't going to believe that you're not riding along as Lady Luck. What's going on here?
Oh, well, I just figured I wanted to get out there and try it myself.
What's Tom feel about all of this?
Oh, he was all right, you know. He was happy about it, but I had to get out there and work on my own, you know. And because I didn't get out there until last week, that's, you know.
So you haven't had a lot of practice?
No, I haven't even drove it until I get out there on the track.
Debbie's debut was not an auspicious one, as her Jeep Bad Company stalled on her first pass through the sippy hole. Without Debbie as his co-pilot for the class finals, Tom Engel ran into a spate of bad luck, as well as some of his fellow competitors. Having pushed his way into second, Tom went after the leader. Like any good captain, Engel went down with the ship, muttering John Paul Jones' famous words, "I have not yet begun to fight." The most important race of the Swamp Buggy Championships is the Big Feature, whose winner is crowned King of the Swamp. Two of the most dominant racers each year are brothers, Leonard and Lonnie Chesser. As in any motorsport, the Chesser brothers' success, more than 20 Swamp Championships between them, is due to their own special innovations, things like airfoils and skis on the wheels, and their driving ability, running their buggies right on the edge and still having enough to win.
Lonnie, I know you were concerned about the motor, but it held up for one more muddy mile.
I couldn't hold it to the floor. I had to let back halfway. Every time I mashed all the way down, it just go to breaking up that valve. So
I know.
I was just hoping, just hold the inside so he couldn't get under me.
Well, I tell you, he went to the outside, right up against the wall. In fact, about washed out one of our cameras trying to get you.
It hung in there.
It certainly did. Congratulations again. You got to be feeling good, huh?
Oh, man, no doubt.
Like many great sporting events, the Swamp Buggy Championships has its own special rituals, none more moving than the ceremonial dunking of the Swamp Buggy Queen by the winner of the Big Feature. Not something you'd expect to see Lady Di doing. All of us dream of inventing a new motorsport, and in 1934, world champion water skier Sven Rosenberg returned to his native Sweden to do just that. His creation combined the thrill of motorcycling with the exhilaration of skiing. Unfortunately, Sven could never think of a name for his sport, a problem that hastened its demise. Winter in Wyoming. Snow blankets the ground. And the second most popular activity among the natives is sleeping late. The number one activity, not surprisingly, is snowmobiling for both recreation and sport. Nestled at the feet of the Rocky Mountains, Riverton, Wyoming is a haven for snowmobile enthusiasts. It's also the site of the annual Wild West Winter Carnival. It's a chance for local residents to get together, to celebrate, to have fun, to enjoy themselves. It's also an opportunity to enjoy some great snowmobile racing because Riverton is also the site of one of 6 NSSR speed trials, acceleration tests held on a frozen lake. The NSSR sanctions records in 28 classes, but the kings of the frozen quarter mile are the unlimited sleds.
It's a very elite sport. There's only 7 men in the world that do this. The machines themselves run anywhere from $80,000 on up to $250,000. The purse is very small. They don't do this for money. They do it for, it's hard telling what they do it for.
7 teams, 7 sleds, and although there are some similarities, there are, after all, only so many ways to build a snowmobile. The sleds are as individual as fingerprints, each reflecting in some small measure the personalities of the people who built them. Beyond certain physical similarities, like having to be track-driven, the most common factor linking the sleds is that they're all built for one purpose: speed. During the speed trials, drivers have a maximum of 4 runs per day in which to set records. However, for a record to be official, NSSR requires a second run within 2% of the record speed.
Really get a kick out of acceleration, and we're accelerating quarter mile in about 7.5 seconds.
Thinking about trying to go fast, trying to set the record. That's my main goal right now. I used to have the record for a couple of years and I lost it, and I'm trying to get it back right now.
You know, everyone is kind of spooked of ice. You know, it's a uncertain substance, you know, it's slippery and all that stuff. And it's kind of nice to go out there and just conquer it, you know.
Summer in Wisconsin. The warming sun melts away the winter, and the second most popular activity among natives is enjoying the weather. The first, snowmobiling, of course. The sport is called water skipping for some fairly obvious reasons. It started in Wisconsin in the 70s and has grown into a popular summer pastime. Snowmobiles are not designed to float. It's the track spinning that keeps rider and sled from sinking. Racing comes in a variety of forms, from drags, first across the lake winds, to oval course sprint races and time trials. There are only 3 rules for success in water skipping. Try to keep yourself balanced on the sled, always keep the engine running when out on the lake, and always wait an hour after eating before going back in the water, before going racing. Motormania is usually people competing against other people in vehicles, such as this contest, Car Rollover, held on the beaches of Daytona, Florida during the late 40s. But long before the time anybody with a decent credit rating could get a car, people were finding outlets for their Motormania, usually with unsuspecting farm animals. Southwest of Portland, Oregon, the landscape alternates between rich grazing pastures and lush timberlands. About 45 miles west of Portland, nestled in this land of lumber and dairy, is Tillamook County, renowned for its outstanding cheeses. Sitting along Highway 101, the north-south route that runs along the Pacific coast, is the city of Tillamook. Tillamook seems an unlikely place for one of racing's most unique events. It happens once a year as the community gathers for a ritual as old as rural America, the county fair.
And this is KTIL, serving Tillamook. We've been around now for 40 years, and we're broadcasting live from the Tillamook County Fair. And you know, there's a lot going on here at the 71st Annual Fair. Did you know that? Besides all the great exhibits, the Midway and the Carnival rides, there's the 4-H and FFA livestock judging. There we go, pari-mutuel horse racing, and of course, the Grand Prix of Tillamook. Sounds good, yeah.
At first glance, the Grand Prix of Tillamook is a throwback to the early years of racing, when daring young men would hang it all out in hot rod Model Ts at dirt tracks across America. The cars are all vintage Ts, maintained in original stock condition. The newest was made in 1926, the oldest before 1910. Piloting one of these Model Ts around the county's half-mile dirt oval is addicting. George Hurleman began racing 34 years ago, and despite the physicalness of the racing, he still enjoys competition.
I love it. It gets in your blood. You know, an hour before the first race, you think your bones hurting and your knees hurting, your hips hurting, but adrenaline's amazing. I don't know, it's just an amazing painkiller. And once I start hearing them T's run, I'm ready to go.
In racing, the cars evolve over the years as technology increases. Not so for the Grand Prix of Tillamook. These cars have remained virtually unchanged for more than 50 years.
I heard about it, and I thought it'd be a lot of fun when I was, maybe I better not even say how old I was, but I won the championship the very first year I raced, and I loved it so much that I asked the guy that I was racing for if he'd sell me the T, and he did. The basic race hasn't changed a bit, other than when I started racing, if 2 cars finished, it was a miracle, and now they all run strong and good.
Vintage car racing may be all the rage these days, but what sets the Grand Prix of Tillamook apart from the crowd are the passengers and how they get aboard. Pig and Ford racing, as the Grand Prix of Tillamook is better known, is among the most physically taxing of all motorsports. The typical race begins with the Le Mans-style start. At the sound of the gun, drivers rush to their pre-assigned pens, grab a pig, and head for their cars. With 40 pounds of squirming piglet under one arm, the drivers hand start their tees. Passengers safely aboard, the drivers set out for a lap around the track at full throttle. Back down Pigpen Row, the drivers bring their cars to a stop as close as possible to their pens. Shutting the cars off, the drivers then execute the famed pig exchange, putting one pig down and picking up the other. Then it's back out for another lap. The first driver to complete the course 3 times wins. As with most motorsports, the origins of pig and Ford racing are shrouded in legend and conjecture.
Realistically, there was 2 old gentlemen in Tillamook. They weren't old at the time, but years ago they were running an old Model T down the road, and as the story goes anyway, and it must be some basis in fact. I guess some pigs jumped out of the side of the road and went running ahead of them, and they run them down and got out of their cars and caught them, and gee, they got back to the car and they thought, that was a lot of fun. We got to try this at the fair, see?
The races are run by the 10 members of the Pig and Model T Club. 6 qualifying races over 3 days determine the entrance for the finals, the race that crowns the world champion. Each racer has up to 3 chances to make the finals. Among this year's 4 finalists is 3-time champion Rick Hurleman, driver of car number 12. The defending champion, Rick learned most of what he knows from his father, George. But Rick isn't the only second-generation racer in the finals. Ken Salo, driver of car number 20, is, like Rick, a second-generation racer and a 3-time champion. Salo last won the overall title in 1985. He finished second overall last year. The third past champion in the race is Ken Wasmer, driver of car number 10. Wasmer was leading last year's final race when he had to stop for a loose pig. He eventually finished third.
Depends on the track conditions. If it's a hard track, you go a lot faster. If it's a soft track, anything can happen. So experience makes a lot of difference, but there's a lot of luck involved in it.
With all a driver does during a typical Pig and Ford race, there are many opportunities for mistakes. As with all racing, success requires minimizing these mistakes.
It took me about 8-10 years to get comfortable and get relaxed enough to where there's 100 mistakes you can make out there. It looks pretty simple, but every 1/10 of a second makes quite a bit of difference, especially on the start. If you get out first, you got a lot better chance of winning. Things just roll smoother if you aren't sucking somebody's dirt.
But if you just concentrate on getting your hands on that pig and settle him in your arms while you're running back to your tee, don't expect him, to grab it and get him all reined in the pen here. Just do it as you run back to your pen, from the pen to your Model T. When you get to the Model T, get that switch on, get it started, and jump on and have both feet landing, one on the throttle and one on low pedal.
Hand starting a Model T, even when the cars were new, was no easy task. Burdened by 40 pounds of livestock and in the heat of competition, the task becomes harder still. One missed crank can take a driver right out of competition. Of all the elements a driver must control, the most uncontrollable is the pig. Since to win, a driver must have his pig at the end of the race, it's important not to fumble away victory by losing the pig. One of the overriding tenets of Pig and Ford racing is pig safety. And as the drivers have learned, the pigs seem to enjoy themselves once they get used to the whole concept.
We take care of them, and the first day is the worst. They bite and they kick and they squeal, and the second day is, about the same. But by the third day, they're really quite calm. It's amazing. They just kind of know what's going to happen, and they just go for the ride.
I tell you what, every day they're out here racing is one less day they're going to be made into bacon. But that ought to help be an incentive. But you've got to realize a lot of us are farmers here, and if we don't treat our cows right, we're not going to get the milk. So we treat animals right. But the big thing is we stress watch out for the pig, the heck with the driver, you know. I mean, the more comfortable he is, the less fight he gives you, so it's better all the way around. And realistically, we try to be pretty careful.
Perhaps the finest testament to the safety of the pigs comes from those who've left racing to pursue other careers. After 3 days of qualifying, the moment all have waited a year for, the Pig and Ford World Championship. The drivers draw lots to determine pig pen number and starting position. In the pens, the pigs make their final preparations, while on the track, the starter makes sure all the cars are correctly lined up. The crowd braces, the drivers get set, and at the sound of the starter's gun, they're off! As they leave the pens, Len Hurleman, car number 16, leads Wasmer, car number 10, Rick Hurleman, car number 12, and Ken Salo, car number 20. Exiting turn 2, Wasmer moves into the lead, followed by the rest of the field. A clean exchange, and Ken Wasmer continues his lead. Following in second, Rick Hurleman, car number 12, is beginning to make up some time. Ken Wasmer, car number 10, comes in for his second exchange and continues his lead over the field, including Ken Salo, car number 20, who's in fourth. Wasmer makes another clean exchange, but both Hurlemans are closing the gap. Wasmer comes into turn 3 and 4. Behind him is Rick Hurleman in second and Ken Salo, who has moved past Len Hurleman into third. Down the front straightaway, Wasmer slides to a stop, makes his last drop-off, and becomes the newest Pig and Ford World Champion. The final standings show Ken Salo in third, Rick Hurleman in second, and of course, Ken Wasmer in first. Perhaps the most appealing aspect of Pig and Ford racing is its purity, a tradition of racing simply for the sake of competition. And as the current generation of racers celebrate this year's exploits, already the next generation of racers and the next generation of passengers are getting ready.